Hello, Monday. This is sort of a small Monday sit down, like we used to do. A couple of things this weekend to look over. First of all, and a sort of a little. Well, I reached my 250 subscriber target, which was wonderful. So thank you everyone who subscribed. I had quite a few more over last night. So for everyone who subscribed, I'm eternally grateful. For a small channel like this, just starting out, really means a lot. So thank you very much. Couple of things to discuss today. First of all, sorry about the attire. I've just got it. It's absolutely Baltic where we are in the UK right now, so just excuse the, you know. Anyway, Tony Weeks and the stoppage of Lawson in the Lawson Ortiz fight. Now, when you get these controversial decisions like this, and people scream sort of conspiracy or fix and things like that. I always try and look for some sort of. I always try to look objective as I do with anything when it comes to fighters, scoring, judging, the game in general. And I always try to look for sort of signs and evidence to lead me to my objective sort of, view of a certain thing. So a few things. I mean, first of all, if you go back to the situation, when Lawson when his back first hit the ropes, I've watched it a couple of times and I saw three shots that I could 100% say landed. At no point, though, did Lawson look like in any trouble. He wasn't, like I say, I counted three punches that I could see landed clearly. None of them really seemed to have any damaging effect or hurtful effect. So there was never a point where, for me, the referee should feel the need to jump in to save the fighter. Saying that, when a fighter is taking shots on the ropes and throwing nothing back, if he's doing that and physically being affected by the shots, the referee could waive that. But usually, especially in the first round, and this is what makes this a bit of a disgrace, it was in the first round. So both guys were fresh. Now, this wasn't an instance where he was caught cold and hurt. Like I said, didn't look hurt. But certainly in between rounds, if a guy is taking punishment and taking punches in between rounds, a referee will quite often come to the corner and say, you've got to show me something. You've got to show me something. If not, I will stop the fight. Never got to that point, so we discard that. But when we talk about this being I don't like to use the word fixed because boxing isn't rigged like that these days. But to me, the reason why I think this was more incompetence than anything else was the fact that, first of all, Tony Weeks is what you could call, he's been doing it for years. He's been doing it for as far back as I can remember. I'm not saying he's the best referee because I never thought he has, but this is not a guy who needs to really give favourable decisions because he wants to work future big events. He's done, I don't know how many world title fights Tony Weeks has done, but it's a lot. He's one of the most experienced referees out there. Experience, yes. Competent, no, if I'm honest. But so I don't see him making the stoppage as a favourable decision for the favoured fighter on the card or in the fight, which would be Ortiz, obviously. So the more I look at that, I just think incompetent. Tony Weeks, this is not the first time Tony Weeks has made some terrible refereeing decisions, but for me, it looks like more incompetence than anything else. I will say, when he waved it off, there was usually when a fighter gets waved off and it's like, it's not a deserved stoppage. It's a contentious stoppage. Usually, the fighter immediately will angrily display his discontent at being stopped. Unjustifiably. He didn't do that. Lawson did very quietly complain after about 5 or 6 seconds. So initially, there was part of me that thought he gets waved, and there isn't much emotion or there isn't much complaint from him. There isn't much animated complaint from him sort of initially. And then, like I say, 5 or 6 seconds, and he does say, he does complain. But I just think massively incompetent refereeing. And for me, that sort of decision like that, Tony Weeks should serve a suspension for now for that, because that's just not good enough. That's just not good enough from a referee of that experience and for the amount of time he's been in the game. That's unacceptable, just unacceptable. And you should. I always thought this as well, because you don't get this in boxing, and this is where I don't think this helps refereeing or the quality or the level of refereeing. When a referee does a decision like that, which is indefensibly wrong for me, especially for a guy that's with that much experience, but a referee should be made to either publicly face the press or publicly give an explanation and some answers as to his decision. Because when you can make that decision and walk away, and like I say, I think that he should be a suspension for that, because referees can be suspended for poor performances, but they don't have to publicly answer to anyone. And I don't think that helps. I think if you put that pressure on a referee that in the event or even in any fight, maybe maybe it should be brought in that referees should answer a post-fight press conference. Maybe that would help. But certainly in this case, where a referee is given a decision that's just outrageously incorrect, you should have to face the heat. I think you should be made to face some examination by the press or someone in the boxing in the trade, not just a behind closed doors sort of hearing by the governing body in which you made the decision for. I just think that would improve refereeing. And if I knew that I was going to face some public examination or some examination by the boxing media, I think it'd have an effect for me personally. So yeah, I don't know what you think, because it gets too much now, doesn't it? There are too many judges as well. And we get too many. And like I said, I've made a previous video about how judges' scorecards can vary, but the way in which they've judged them can still be correct. So it's not always the case, but in cases like this, Tony Weeks, there's no defence for that. Really is no defence for that. That is just, and like I say, I don't believe it was any hometown decision or corrupt in any way. I just think it was massively incompetent, and it's not good enough. It's not good enough. So yeah, let me know what you think on that. So moving on. We've got Joshua v Ngannou. And we've got that confirmed now for March the 8th, the Friday, not the 9th as originally was bandied about. It's the 8th on the Friday. I think possibly to coincide with the start of Ramadan on the Sunday, and that would run over. So that's fair enough. Now, I also made a video a while ago about how, because a lot of people were talking about Saudi now as not good for the boxing business. And I made a previous video where I said, all Saudi are doing really is what Vegas did sort of at the start 20 to 30 years ago, where Vegas used to pay the site fees are a lot bigger in Vegas because of the punters through the door. So all the big fights went to Vegas. But now what's emerging, and this is where the two differ between Vegas and Saudi. When the fights happened in Vegas, Vegas understood the way boxing mechanics worked and the way the sport worked. Okay, so they had a history, and they knew the history of boxing, and they knew the way boxing was kind of structured. And this is what I think where boxing shoots itself in the foot massively, is the fact that boxing suffers from a lack of structure. So I'm not even a fan of, the voluntary defense system. So you make a mandatory, and then in between every mandatory, you get the choice to fight a voluntary of an opposition of your choice. Now, I'm not sure that's even great for the game, but what Saudi have done is the sort of, like I said, there's a lack of structure. We don't have a season. We have rankings, but we don't have an official fight schedule as such. We have time limits imposed in which you have to make a mandatory defense, but that's kind of it. But where Saudi and Vegas differ greatly is that Saudi don't really understand the almost unspoken ethics of boxing. So now we had Ngannou v Fury, which for me, for that fight, Fury should have been stripped, because when you're going to hold up a division and essentially have a voluntary or a not fight a mandatory contender because you're going to fight someone who's not even ranked at the time and he's a pro debutant, that's wrong. And I don't think that fight should have gone ahead. Of course I watched it. Of course I'm interested. I'm a fight fan. I'm going to. But politically, there was a lot of problems with that. Really a lot of problems with that. And I kind of thought at the time that that might be kind of a one-off kind of event in a sense. But now we have Ngannou. I mean, the WBC haven't helped by giving Ngannou a ranking on one pro fight and one pro loss, and he's now a top 10. I think he's top 10 in WBC, which is pathetic. But now he's now getting a second crack at an elite level marquee fighter in Anthony Joshua. And again, I'll watch it because it's interesting. I'm a fight fan. All of us fight fans are going to watch it, regardless of what we think politically. And does that make us part of the problem? Maybe it does. Maybe the fact that I've no doubt that'll be pay-per-view, and I'll probably pay. So maybe it makes me a hypocrite. Maybe it does. Maybe I'm part of the problem because they're only going to make these fights if they sell, and while the likes of me buy them, I suppose I'm not helping the problem, am I? But if it wasn't there as an option in the first place, I certainly wouldn't buy it. So Saudi don't really understand the tradition of boxing, do we? This is not really how boxing should work, is it? Because now, if Joshua wins by a knife edge, if he wins a narrow victory decision, isn't Ngannou going to climb the rankings again? Will he move up in the WBC rankings, and will he enter another governing body rankings for that loss? Because if he entered at number 10 after one fight and one loss as a pro and comes in at number 10 in the WBC, if he fights now Anthony Joshua and loses narrowly, does he enter more organisations? Does he climb the rankings again for having 2 losses in 2 fights? It's just, boxing is a sport that continuously shoots itself in the foot, isn't it? And it just seems to be getting worse. And even this Fury and Ngannou fight, the amount of what you would call, the professional boxing media are not really calling this out for what it is either. They seem happy and more interested. And I'll reiterate, I'm interested. I'm a fight fan. So if you're going to give it me, I'm going to watch it. I'm sorry, and like I said, maybe it makes me a hypocrite. But if you don't give it me, I'm not going to watch it. But I secondly don't agree with it. I'm disappointed with Joshua and Hearn. And Hearn came out and called the Fury and Ngannou fight for what it was. And now, and I'm a Hearn fan. All right? A lot of you guys are Hearn haters. I'm not. I'm a Hearn fan. But Hearn, you called Frank out and Fury out for doing this, and now you've done the same. So, that's a little bit of kind of respect gone. It's just, we're going down not a great direction, are we? It's not, leaves a bit of a bad taste. And I'm a Joshua fan as well. You guys all know I'm a Joshua fan. But all we heard was you wanted the most direct route to become a 3-time heavyweight champion. And now because you offered, and listen to have it right, Anthony Joshua has earned a shit ton of money. He's probably earned the most money as a heavyweight than anyone in the last 10 years, accumulatively, I would imagine. So you don't even need to do it for the money, but you are doing it for the money because it doesn't forward your aim to become a 3-time heavyweight champion of the world at all. Yes, I know what it does is if you beat Ngannou comfortably or spectacularly and Fury struggled, then that sets up. But that fight, if Anthony Joshua regains a version of the heavyweight championship and Tyson Fury is still undisputed, is still massive, so we don't need it for that reason. I don't know. I'm having a bit of a moan this morning, fellas, but some things just leave a taste, don't they? And you got to call it for what it is. And again, it's always, for me, it's from an objective point of view. This is not favoritism or any of that sort of stuff. I just call it as I see it. So anyway, I'm sure you guys will let me know. I will do a sort of an in-depth look forward to Beterbiev versus Smith. I'm really looking forward to that. With that, we're back to the real good stuff, the real core boxing quality stuff, aren't we, that is? So really looking forward to that. So I'll see you all in a week. Might be back with another video before then. Who knows? See what news crops up and what issues crop up that are worthy for us all to sort of converse about. Anyway, that's it. I'll see you all soon.